So Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I thought I would introduce you because you look like a grown-up version of your brother Devin.
Thank you.
Are you a vegan as well?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
About 3 years.
And how old are you now?
I'm 12.
So when you were 9, you
Yeah.
started to be exclusively vegan. And what prompted you to do that?
I was on an RV trip through Mexico with my mom and dad, and I heard that my best friends at home all went vegan.
Your friends at home went vegan
Yeah.
while you were on vacation in
Yes.
Mexico.
And that just pushed me, because my mom basically already made a lot of vegan food. Well, basically all vegan food, so it wasn't that much of a difference
Okay.
to be vegan.
Did you have a hard time being vegan while you were on vacation in Mexico?
No, not really.
Oh, interesting. Most people who have a specific diet, when they travel, they can have a hard time, especially in airports,
Yeah.
trying to get the kind of food that they want. It didn't cause you any troubles?
Well, she usually carries around vegan butters and stuff anyways.
I do.
So you had your own stash.
I do.
Yes.
I usually have peanut butter or something stocked so that we don't have to worry about it.
So the conversion outside of the country was not a problem?
Traveling in Mexico is actually, we just returned from Mexico, and the base of the cooking there is beans, rice, tortillas, all kinds of fresh sauces, all plant-based. So that's usually not a problem. Airports are definitely a problem.
Yes.
Or traveling in general when you're trying to get from point A to point B. So I typically travel with more food than I will ever eat, or they will ever eat, but I want to make sure that we are fully stocked.
Understood. So Dylan, what are we having now?
Tonight we're gonna make some cashew cheese.
Great.
Yeah.
Mother, would you care to show us how to make cashew cheese?
I would, son. Just kidding. Okay, so first of all, the base for this cheese is cashews, obviously, and the important thing is that they're soaked for at least 4 to 6 hours, ideally overnight. That's
Okay.
the only prep that needs to happen for this particular dish. So I'm going to drain it so that
And why do you soak them overnight?
basically, the cashews, these are raw, by the way. You want to make sure that you get raw cashews
Not
and not
roasted, salted cashews?
Correct.
Okay, so raw cashews.
Correct. So the raw cashews are on the hard side, as any nut would be. They're a little softer than almonds or other kinds of nuts, but they still have a hardness to them. If you soak them, they absorb some of the liquid, and they become a little easier to process and work with.
Okay.
So we're going for a creamy, smooth consistency, so the longer they're soaked, typically the better. Within reason, if you soak them too long, then they're not gonna stay fresh. So you wanna keep them refrigerated. 12 hours overnight is ideal. Rinse and then use clean water for the cheese.
I see. So refrigerate while you're soaking them.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything that has, obviously nuts are full of all kinds of great stuff. And anything that has a lot of oil to it can oxidize and go rancid really quickly. So the fresher, the better.
I see.
That's why you want to maintain them at a cold temperature. So we're going to put the nuts in.
And again, no one has to worry about the measurements because it's going to be on your website and at the end of this piece.
Correct.
So just enjoy it.
So again, your new favorite food.
This is my favorite food, nutritional yeast. I love it.
We're going to put about a quarter. Now, one of the things that I use, you could make this without the probiotics, and it would come out a little on the sweeter side, meaning it's not going to ferment.
What's a probiotic?
A probiotic is the opposite of an antibiotic. So in your body, when people take antibiotics, they are, it's basically a medicine that is designed to destroy all kinds of bacteria in your system, good and bad. Your body has a lot of really good bacteria in it that helps it to stay healthy. And a probiotic is that. So it's all of the good stuff that you want in your system that helps you to process your food and helps your immune system and helps everything work better.
I never knew that a probiotic was the opposite of an antibiotic. it sounds right when you put them together. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's
That's why I do this show, because I learned.
a lot of people have heard of acidophilus, which is the probiotic that is used to culture yogurt. And so a lot of times you'll hear someone say, "Oh, you're on antibiotics. Make sure you eat yogurt because that's going to help to counteract that." This is a more condensed form. If you're concerned about what you're putting in your body, these capsules are often gelatin-based, which is an animal product. It's also just kind of yucky because it's made out of
Gelatin?
and gelatin is
Horse hooves.
typically
Horse
hooves of
hooves.
some sort of creature. So these are vegan capsules. That said, we're not going to use the capsule. We're just going to open them right up. And I put about 5 of these in.
And this is to help it ferment?
Yeah, so essentially when you make a cheese, or if anybody's ever made yogurt at home, you take the milk and then you put the acidophilus or whatever the probiotic is that you're using, the culture, and then it turns into yogurt. So it gets that slightly tangy taste to it, it thickens.
So you're making cheese, you're just using, instead of dairy, you're using cashew nuts instead.
Correct. That's
And you can
exactly
ferment
right.
cashew nuts.
You can. So we've got the nutritional yeast in here. We've got the probiotics. You can use various flavorings. I'm going to use garlic powder and onion powder.
Are there any common medical conditions that are helped with probiotics?
You know, there's a lot of research being done now on the connection between the lack of these good bacteria in the body and all kinds of issues like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, celiac. There's a lot of research that's starting to point to an imbalance in the bacteria in the body that can cause all kinds of problems. So our overuse of antibiotics, and again, a lot of animal products that are consumed have a lot of antibiotics in them.
So you're taking antibiotics without realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. And the requirements, or that most farm animals are dosed very highly in order to keep them healthy. So they have a lot of this stuff in their system. And the kinds of things that we eat, it gets into, you know, if you see a lot of, say you see a label and it says not appropriate for breastfeeding mothers. The reason why is because whatever they're consuming is going into their milk, and you don't want to pass that on to a baby. Same thing here. So if you're feeding antibiotics to cows and then they're processing the milk, whatever they were eating is coming through, or whatever they've been injected with. So it's coming through the milk, it comes through the meat. You're consuming a lot of that stuff without knowing it.
I see. So when people look at veganism, it's not necessarily just about not having animal products or not wanting to be cruel towards animals. It's not wanting to be cruel towards yourself by taking medicine you don't want to be taking.
That's correct. There's a perception for a lot of people that they think vegans are just sort of naive people that think animals are cute and don't want to eat them. Which is very annoying.
I thought of that.
To us vegans, because we're intelligent creatures. And you know, there's a lot of good reasons to not eat animal products. Clearly, if you don't believe in treating animals badly, that's certainly one. But all of the stuff that is fed to animals is two. 3 is the wastefulness of it. The amount of water it takes, the amount of grain it takes is, in my mind, wasteful. So we eat the products closer to the source. So we're eating the plants themselves.
I see. Okay.
Any other things you can think of that you would say when your friends ask you why you're vegan?
Not really.
No? Did I cover all those bases?
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
There's one you missed. It tastes really good.
Well, yes.
There's no compromise on taste.
I'm going to work with some, this is called liquid smoke. It makes things smoky.
Can I try a little?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's this made of?
Very, very strong.
Tastes like smoky vinegar.
It's liquid smoke. It's smoke that's been made into liquid.
So it's really smoke? Oh.
And you can get hickory, you can get different, so if you like the smoky flavor, you can get different variations of that based on whatever the wood that was burned.
My mother used to have malt vinegar on French fries. That would be good in malt vinegar. Mm-hmm. And you're allowed to eat malt vinegar, right?
We can eat anything we want.
That's right. It's true. I walked into that one.
It is true. We can eat whatever we want. And yes, malt vinegar would be considered vegan.
Good.
If that's your question.
On the approved list.
Yes. So, because I'm doing this off the top of my head, it's possible that I'm forgetting something, but let's just go with that. Now, one of the important things, okay, so if you really want to get nerdy with your cheese, you can use cheesecloth and drain it. If you want a thicker cheese, if you want something you can mold or roll, for example, when this gets done, if we were to put it in cheesecloth and drain it, we could roll it into a log and cover it with fresh herbs and make it look really beautiful. You could even slice it.
Okay.
I'm too lazy, honestly. And a lot of times it doesn't make it out of the bowl into any form except the mouths of my children and friends.
I see.
So, but that said, if you wanted to do that, you could, and you could get a different kind of consistency for it. For now, because I want to minimize the wetness of it, I'm going to put the least amount of water possible.
I see.
And that's really important. If I was going to drain it, it wouldn't be as big a deal. But the tricky thing is the balance between the water and the solids and making sure that you can process it. So you got to get enough liquid in there that it'll
For it to mix up.
Correct.
I understand.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put enough water in just to get it started and try it, and then add more water as I need. Looks great. Getting a little stuck. This takes a little finessing. So I'm going to scrape it down. Dylan, you want to put a little more water in here?
Yeah, sure.
Just a tad. It's right in here. So again, the least amount possible.
More?
A little more than that. That looks good. I said least amount, and I was like, but more than that. Okay. And you want to get the liquid down. This is one of the hardest things. It's just not, you have to be patient.
But if you had the cheesecloth on all the time,
In the world.
then it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. We're going to add a little more water.
A little more?
See, the thing is, if you add too much water, you can't fix it. You can't just throw more. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's one of those things where
Can't go backwards.
You can't really go backwards. Give me a little more. Because we're going to, when we taste it, we're going to taste one that's already been, yeah. So, how about, what I'd like you to do, Dylan, is get me a container of the cashew cheese from the fridge that we've already made. Should be on the right-hand side. All right, so we're gonna let that sit for a sec.
Alrighty.
Because I don't want to keep messing with it. And then what we're going for, so you can see the consistency of this, nice and creamy and smooth.
It's pretty thick.
It's very thick, and you can see.
It's very thick.
Whoa.
It's
Right,
not going
so
anywhere.
that's the fermentation process, so it will thicken as it processes.
So how long does it have to go, does it have to sit or ferment?
If I'm making this for the restaurant, I can't leave it out too long. If I was at home, I'd leave it out longer. 6 hours, 8 hours, overnight ideally, with just a little bit of airflow. So you cover it. So if you're making this at home, you do that, you leave it on the counter overnight. It will
Not refrigerated.
Correct. It won't process. It's sort of like, you know, when you make bread and you put the yeast in and the water that you put in has to be warm or it won't activate the yeast. It's the same kind of deal. If you refrigerate it right away, the acidophilus, the probiotics, whatever, will not be able to process.
And so
they
with
won't-
food laws, having a cafe,
Correct.
you can't do it that long.
No, we don't do that.
I see. Follow the rules.
Yes, we follow the rules. All right, so we want to sample some of this cashew cheese.
Sure.
Correct? And who has the crackers? Oh,
Oh, here we go.
fantastic. My handsome husband, Steven, just passed us some crackers. So go ahead.
Thank you. Here you go.
Thank you.
Mimi.
Thank you. Good. This is about
Very good.
day one. The more it sits, the tangier it'll get. Mm-hmm. And this is a real basic recipe, so you can add whatever you want to
Oh,
add
you
a
get the
little bit.
twang at the end. This is nice. It's very mild.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it could use a little more salt, or a garlic salt, or something
Absolutely.
like that. Or
Again, you can play with it.
Nutritional yeast.
He's thinking.
More nutritional yeast.
More nutritional yeast.
Here's what I like to do as well. The other option with cashew
Would
is
you mind sprinkling a little more?
get rid of the probiotic, process the cashews as is with a little bit more water, and what you get from that is a cashew cream. And so
Oh.
when we make any of our cream soups, we use a cashew cream, and that gives you a super hearty, creamy soup that is, I think you can't tell the difference between a dairy cream and a cashew cream.
I couldn't tell that that's not dairy.
You can
And
throw
it's
this
really
in
good
anything.
with the nutritional yeast.
It's so
fan.
much better with the nutritional yeast. The nutritional yeast.
I should work for those guys as an admin or something.
Yeah, you should. Okay, so we're gonna pass this. Dylan, you wanna pass this over? Or you want me, actually I'll do it so that I'm not. So let's bring this over
this to
here if
all the
anybody
people.
wants to sample our cashew cheese. So this was just made today. So as this hangs out a little longer, we'll find it to get a little bit tangier. And actually, let me just see.
So how long can you go to get maximum fermentation?
About 24 hours.
Oh, that's pretty short.
Yeah.
So it's not like cheddar cheese where it's aged 90 days or something.
Let me see. I'm not sure if this is a older batch. Taste that and tell me if you taste a little different.
The twang is almost right away.
Yeah. So this is.
Thank you very much.
I think this one a little bit better. This
yeah.
would be good as like a replacement for bagels and cream cheese.
That's what we use it for.
Didn't see that one coming.
Okay. So this is the one that has been fermented longer. By the way, this would be considered a raw food.
Okay.
So
yes.
for raw food people, this would be a great option.
So let's review it again because I think I want to make that one at home.
Okay.
So I take my cashew nuts and I soak them overnight in the refrigerator.
Correct.
Then I put it into the blender with 5 of the acidophilus probiotic capsules.
Correct.
And what else do I put in there?
Nutritional yeast.
Oh, yay. Nutritional yeast.
And whatever flavoring, I used liquid smoke, I used some garlic powder, some onion powder, a little salt. You could use lemon juice again if you want it to be a little more tangy. So you can play a little bit with the flavors.
I would probably use smoked sea salt because that's one of my favorite seasonings, which I
Perfect.
love.
Great idea.
And I'm from Maryland where we have crabs, so Old Bay seasoning in anything
Love it.
would probably be pretty tasty.
I love it.
But that's
Sounds
a great base. You're right. You could play with any spice you want to.
You could play with it a lot. And like I said, you can also make just the cashew cream, which is just the cashews and the water processed to almost like a little bit thicker than a heavy cream consistency. And then that can be stirred into a soup to make a cream soup. We do a corn chowder, we do a cream of broccoli,
Rockin' broccoli.
the rockin' broccoli. And do we do another?
Corn chowder and the rockin' broccoli.
Any of our cream soups, right? Yeah, you can add that. Oh, and the other thing I do with you could do this with the cheese, but you could also do it with a cashew cream, is make a cream sauce. An Alfredo, a vodka sauce, you know, with the tomato and the cream. So
Okay.
that same kind of idea. Very
So-
creamy, very delicious.
I could see if that was like a fettuccine Alfredo sauce, with your pasta
Oh yeah.
and your nutritional yeast for
Oh
your
my
cheese,
gosh.
that would be,
So good.
you might not be able to tell.
You know, as my husband likes to remind me, he always says to me, when was the last time you had that? Because I'm always like, this tastes just like whatever. But there are certain things that I know for, like with the, I really believe the cashew cream can be replaced without a detection for heavy cream.
Heavy cream,
It
yeah,
gives
cream
you a
cheese
lot of the
definitely.
same mouthfeel, a lot of the same thickness, the hardiness that people are looking for.
There's also a ton of protein in cashews.
There is a ton of protein in cashews. Yep, and by the way, nutritional yeast, nutritional yeast. Got
Welcome
nutritional
to the
yeast on the
Nutritional
brain
Yeast Show.
from the Nutritional Yeast Council. The other thing is that there's no cholesterol in plant foods. So if people are concerned
Oh.
about their cholesterol, the cholesterol only comes from animal products, and there is absolutely no cholesterol in plant foods.
That's a good one to know. That's a very good one to know. So anyone who has heart disease
Correct.
should consider some of that cashew.
Absolutely, although a lot of folks that are interested in specifically heart health, they tend to be a little anti-oils in general. I tend to
Yes.
be very pro-oils. Nut-based oils, olive oil, I love it. I use it all the time. So health-wise, if you're concerned about heart health, some folks are concerned about oils in general. I tend not to be, but that's sort of a philosophical thing.
Someone told me that when you're looking at the fats and the oils, that if they are liquid at room temperature, they'll be liquid inside your body. But if they're solid at
Correct.
room temperature, like the fat off of meat, then
Correct.
that could be clogging inside the body.
Yeah, I think that that's a good general rule. It has to do with how saturated the fat is. So monosaturated fats are liquid at room temperature. Coconut oil, for example, is an example of a saturated vegetable-based fat, and that's why it's solid at room temperature.
I see.
So those tend to be a little less good for you than the monounsaturated.
Understood. Okay. That's a winner. Now, how long will that stay fresh?
Quite a while, because again, it's fermented.
Oh, right.
So it lasts for, yeah. I mean, keep an eye on it.
If it starts to move.
If it starts to move or
But
it turns
I-
green, then you have blue cashew cheese. No, I don't know, but I would say probably 10 days would be safe.
I get a sense you'd probably eat it before the 10 days is up.
I think so. I definitely think so, and there's so many uses for it, for sure.
That one's a winner.